There was a time when I was so obsessed with people liking me that I really compromised my value and my integrity in order to cater to other people that were not me. It's human nature to want to be liked, and proof of that is the fact that it hurts so much when someone doesn't. It's not just human nature, it's evolutionary biology. In ancient times, the worst thing that could happen to you was to be cast out from the tribe. Belonging was literally a priority. Not belonging meant death. But why is this drive, this need to be liked, still so prevalent today when we've evolved so much? And what are the philosophical and social reasons behind our drive to be liked? In today's lesson, I'll tell you a secret that no one has the courage to tell you, and I'll share what you can do to become a better and more likable version of yourself. I am Dr. Claudia Consolati, spiritual teacher and prophet of the New Age. I have an Ivy League PhD in female mysticism, and I talk about psychology, spirituality, and philosophy to help you become your best self. If this content resonates, make sure you subscribe and also let me know your biggest takeaway in the comments. I'm sure you had the experience of being faced with rejection, and that hurts. Even if you technically don't care, even if the rejection has no impact for you or even improves your life, it still hurts a lot. As I said, from an evolutionary perspective, our bodies and nervous systems are wired for belonging. We want to be included in the tribe so that we can literally survive. Physiologically, the experience of being disliked, thus rejected and cast out, is very similar to the experience of death. It's not just painful emotionally, it's also painful somatically. But there's more. There are not just physiological and evolutionary reason as to why we try to make everyone like us. There's also psychological ones that are very detrimental to our health. Because trying to make people like us means that we cater to them. We people please and we manipulate situations as to get the result that we wanted, that is their seal of approval. This is bad for our mental health, but also very bad for our physical health as well, because lying and manipulating, even if we do it unconsciously, puts our nervous system in fight or flight, which is a state of activation that's very detrimental for our well-being. So if it is so bad for us to try no matter what to be liked, why do we still do it? Why are we so committed to the idea of being liked by everyone? Because, and I want you to listen carefully, when other people like us, that feels so good. And that feeling corresponds to a protective mechanism for our ego so that it doesn't have to look at its own shortcomings. Let me explain. When people like us, and maybe even praise us and tell us how wonderful we are, that feels very good to our ego. Not only because it's nice to receive compliments, but also because it confirms what the ego likes to think about itself, namely that we are good people worthy of recognition, regardless of whether that corresponds to the truth or not. The problem, and again, I want you to listen carefully, we're not good people, or rather, we're not only good people. Humans are complex, and most of us are mostly good, but we also do have bad parts that we are, for the most part, afraid to look at and afraid to show others. So we'd rather hide. External validation is ultimately detrimental because it prevents us from going within and from taking a good hard look at ourselves and getting unapologetically honest about our positive qualities, but also our negative ones. For instance, if they were to engage in this process of looking at their own shadow, all people pleaser might discover that they have an enormous amount of repressed anger. That is the truth of their condition, that they're actually rageaholics in disguise that have hidden their true self under the pretense of likability. Again, Likability in this case is a lie. People pleasing is a lie. It's a mask used to manipulate others. Or someone who gets a lot of praise from their work and that activates a feedback loop where the more they get validation, the more they work hard and do their best so as to not stop the positive feedback loop. If they stopped for a second, they would realize that they're overworking. Something that they likely do in order to get praised is in truth something that prevents them from looking deep within, and something that prevents them from looking deep within at their own shame. And that shame might highlight the fact that there's for sure a part of them that's not so competent after all, that's not so brilliant and not so accomplished, which is how the normal human psyche is. Wanting others to like us is ultimately a subconscious lying to itself by creating an outside mirror that only reflects our goodness. And that is a lie because, again, human beings are complex and have both light and shadow. Wanting to hide your goodness feels good to a point because it's not only lying, but it's also a stunted way to live. True spiritual graduation happens when we have the courage to admit to ourselves who we truly are, regardless of what others think. We have to admit that we, like all humans, are multifaceted beings with stellar and less than stellar qualities. The healthiest course of action, the healthiest sense of self, comes from looking at every part of ourselves with non-indulgent curiosity instead of burying the less honorable parts of us deep within, hoping no one will find out. And that's why one of the core principles of my 3-step methodology to become your highest and best self is to tell the truth. This might sound simple, but it's not. There's no higher human quality and higher vibration than truth. Once you're able to face the truth about yourself and come to peace with yourself no matter what, that will be the most important thing. It's at that point that you'll be able to truly like yourself and be your own ally, regardless of others' opinion. By the way, you can find out more about my methodology and what it entails in the free ebook in the description below. And if this content resonates, make sure to like, comment, and hit subscribe. It truly helps me be a beacon of truth in a world committed to lies.